Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Fatinya Radisa and I will explain about reference and inference in English Pragmatics. Pragmatics is a branch of linguistics that studies the meaning of speakers and requires context when analyzing speaker expressions and the relationship between speaker and language. Therefore, pragmatic studies reference and inference. Reference is the act of the speakers or rather using linguistic form to enable the listener or reader to identify something. The reference depends on the speaker's intention, for example, to refer to something, and on the speaker's belief, for example, so that the listener can identify the speaker's intention. If the reference is carried out by and depend on the speaker's purpose, inference or conclusion, is the text of the listener to make a conclusion in order to have an interpretation of meaning with speakers or speaker's intention, which shows the process of deciphering the pragmatic meaning of a utterance. To do so, the listener uses additional knowledge to understand what has not been said explicit. Aspect of reference and inference. 1. Referential and attributive use is a concept that refers to something that does not always match its shape or image of its form. The speakers invite the reader to assume physically when what is described does not exist. Example, there is a man waiting for you. The sentence above only informs that there is a man waiting, but does not know who the man in question is. So the listener will indirectly assume the person in question may be someone he knows or someone else. 2. Name and reference. Name and reference is a collaborative process between intent and purpose. Usually refers to the same belief, knowledge, and culture. One example is that in today's society, when people want to buy that soap at a shop, we will say I want to buy that soap without mentioning the name of the particular soap brand. However, the seller understandably provides soap with a well-known brand without any hesitation and confusion about what is meant by depth soap, because both the seller and the buyer know that the term depth soap refers to a well-known brand of soap. Example, I will bet you at sky. The meaning of sky here is not the actual sky, but this could be a place or something else. 3. The role of context. Our ability to identify the reference to which they are actually intended depends more on our understanding. The role of context generally limits us to interpretation outside of its context. Example, these potato cakes are made from fried potatoes and pounded with a mixture of chicken meat. 4. Anaphoric reference. Anaphoric reference invites listeners to continue to identify correctly. Example, in the first chapter, a girl and a boy were trying to escape from the cage of monster. The boy grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her to move quickly. He shouted loudly and her to keep running to avoid monster. A girl, a boy, the boy, and her is initial reference.
Conclusion. Reference and inference is a concept on how meanings are expressed by speaker to linguistic expressions, and later being inferred and interpreted by the listeners. The expressions used to deliver to meaning are not always explicitly state the thing which being referred, a meaning behind the meaning. These meanings are influenced significantly by the collaborative understanding between speaker and listener and all members of society. We can use words, phrase, name, and even sentence to refer, but context will determine that the meaning is correctly caught by the listener. Under the scope of reference and inference, referential and attributive use are explored, and so as anaphoric reference as further. This topic is essential in English pragmatics and become fascinating issue to be discussed among linguists.